For over 1,000 years, one city stood unconquered between two continents. In 1453, its fate would change the course of history forever. Known as the capital of the Byzantine Empire, Constantinople controlled vital trade routes connecting Europe and Asia, making it one of the world's most valuable cities. Its towering Theodosian walls had protected the city for nearly 1,000 years, defeating countless armies that attempted to breach them. Yet beyond those mighty walls, a young Ottoman sultan believed Constantinople could finally be conquered. His name was Mehmed II. Only 21 years old, Mehmed II had spent years preparing for the siege, studying military strategy, engineering, and the history of earlier failed attacks. Unlike previous rulers, Mehmed understood that defeating Constantinople required more than courage. It demanded careful planning and overwhelming firepower. One innovation would soon transform medieval warfare forever. It was unlike anything the defenders had faced before. A Hungarian engineer named Urban designed an enormous bombard capable of shattering walls once believed impossible to destroy. Transporting the massive bombard became an engineering achievement of its own, requiring hundreds of workers, powerful oxen, and carefully prepared roads. Inside Constantinople, Emperor Constantine XI prepared the city's defenses, knowing the coming siege would decide the empire's future. Although greatly outnumbered, Byzantine defenders strengthened the walls, gathered supplies, and prepared to resist a siege unlike any before. By early April 1453, the Ottoman army surrounded Constantinople, and one of history's greatest sieges was finally about to begin. On the morning of April 6, 1453, the siege officially began as Ottoman artillery prepared to fire upon Constantinople's legendary walls. With a thunderous explosion, the giant bombard fired, shaking the earth and announcing the beginning of one of history's most famous sieges. Although sections of the walls were damaged, Byzantine defenders rushed forward, repairing breaches before another bombardment could begin. For days, the bombardment continued. Every sunrise brought fresh attacks, while every night the defenders struggled to rebuild the shattered walls. Despite constant bombardment, the massive Theodosian walls continued resisting, forcing Mehmed to search for new strategies beyond artillery alone. The city's greatest protection was not only its walls. A massive iron chain blocked enemy ships from entering the Golden Horn. Without control of the Golden Horn, the Ottoman fleet could not fully surround Constantinople or support attacks against its northern defenses. Mehmed answered with a bold and unexpected plan, one that would surprise both his enemies and future generations of historians. Instead of attacking the chain directly, Mehmed ordered an operation almost no one believed could ever succeed. Hundreds of workers prepared a wooden pathway across the hills, coating the timbers with animal fat to reduce friction. Under the cover of darkness, Ottoman crews began pulling their ships across land toward the waters of the Golden Horn. By sunrise, Byzantine defenders were astonished to discover Ottoman warships already floating inside the Golden Horn behind the protective chain. The arrival of the Ottoman fleet inside the Golden Horn forced Byzantine commanders to divide their already limited defenders across multiple fronts. Meanwhile, relentless artillery continued striking the Theodosian walls, gradually weakening sections that had resisted invasion for centuries. Both sides endured exhaustion as weeks of constant combat, repairs, and preparation tested discipline more than raw strength. As May approached, Sultan Mehmed prepared for a decisive assault that he hoped would finally bring the city to its knees. Before launching the final assault, Mehmed ordered one last series of coordinated attacks to weaken the city's remaining defenses. Inside Constantinople, defenders repaired damaged walls through the night, knowing the next attack could determine the city's survival. As darkness faded, thousands of Ottoman soldiers quietly moved into position, awaiting the signal to begin the decisive assault. Then, before sunrise on May 29, 1453, the final assault on Constantinople officially began. Wave after wave of Ottoman troops advanced toward the walls, testing every section of the Byzantine defenses through relentless coordinated assaults. After hours of continuous fighting, exhausted defenders struggled to replace the growing number of wounded guarding the damaged walls. At the critical moment, elite Janissary units advanced with remarkable discipline, concentrating their efforts on weakened sections of the walls. Gradually, repeated bombardment and relentless assaults weakened key defensive positions, bringing the battle closer to its decisive turning point. As the outer defenses weakened, fierce fighting concentrated near the St. Romanus Gate, where the fate of Constantinople would soon be decided. Emperor Constantine XI refused every opportunity to escape, choosing instead to remain beside his soldiers until the very end. By sunrise, relentless pressure created several openings in the damaged defenses, allowing Ottoman forces to push steadily toward the city. For the first time in nearly 1,000 years, enemy forces had successfully entered Constantinople's legendary defenses. As Ottoman forces entered the city, organized Byzantine resistance rapidly collapsed, ending centuries of imperial rule within Constantinople. Emperor Constantine XI disappeared during the final fighting, and his body was never identified with complete certainty. Soon afterward, Sultan Mehmed II entered Constantinople, marking the beginning of a new chapter in the city's long history. Rather than allowing widespread destruction to continue, Mehmed ordered the restoration of order throughout the captured city. One of Mehmed's first destinations was Hagia Sophia, a building that had symbolized Constantinople for nearly 1,000 years. The conquest transformed Constantinople into the new capital of the Ottoman Empire, beginning centuries of political and cultural change. The fall of Constantinople marked the end of the Byzantine Empire, which had survived for more than 11 centuries. For many historians, the conquest of Constantinople became one of the defining events marking the transition from the medieval world to the early modern age. The capture of Constantinople reshaped international trade, forcing European kingdoms to search for new sea routes beyond Ottoman-controlled territory. Many historians believe these changing trade networks helped inspire the great age of exploration that followed during the next century. Today, the ancient walls, Hagia Sophia, and the Bosphorus continue to remind millions of visitors where one era ended and another began. The fall of Constantinople was more than the capture of a city. It was a turning point that forever changed the course of world history. For Sultan Mehmed II, the impossible had become reality. At just 21 years old, he had captured one of history's greatest cities. The victory earned Mehmed a title remembered for centuries. Mehmed the Conqueror, known in history as Fatih Sultan Mehmed. The city's strategic position would help shape the Ottoman Empire into one of the most influential powers of the following centuries. Even today, historians continue studying the siege as a remarkable combination of engineering, strategy, determination, and leadership. The Theodosian Walls had defended Constantinople for nearly 1,000 years, resisting countless invasions before finally yielding in 1453. The siege demonstrated how innovation, logistics, and determination could overcome defenses once considered impossible to breach. Nearly 6 centuries later, the story of Constantinople continues to fascinate historians, archaeologists, and millions of people around the world. The fall of Constantinople was not simply the end of an empire. It was the beginning of a new chapter that forever changed the world. Throughout the siege, Ottoman engineers also dug tunnels beneath the walls, hoping to weaken Constantinople's defenses from below. Byzantine defenders detected several tunnels and launched countermining operations, collapsing passages before they reached the city walls. Several naval clashes also took place outside the harbor as both sides struggled to control vital supply routes across the surrounding waters. Each failed attack, repaired wall, and bold innovation brought the siege closer to the historic breakthrough that would change the world forever. The siege lasted 53 exhausting days, testing the endurance, engineering, and determination of both the Ottoman and Byzantine worlds. Its lessons influenced military strategy for generations, proving that technology and planning could reshape the outcome of even the strongest fortifications. Nearly 600 years later, the story of Constantinople still reminds us how a single city can shape the destiny of civilizations. Empires rise. Empires fall. But the legacy of Constantinople continues to echo across history, inspiring generations to study its remarkable story. The stones of Constantinople have witnessed emperors, conquerors, triumphs, and tragedies, preserving nearly 2,000 years of human history. Its story reminds us that history is shaped not only by armies, but also by vision, resilience, innovation, and leadership. Nearly 6 centuries have passed, yet the fall of Constantinople remains one of the most studied and influential events in world history. This was the fall of Constantinople, a siege that ended one empire, began another, and forever changed the course of world history.